Hello, everyone. Good evening. My name is Kaylee Walsh, and this is Casey Martin, and we are the co-presidents of Law Women here at NYU this year. We're delighted to welcome you to the 2025 Law Women Alumni Reception. We are so grateful for this space and the time to celebrate alumni who have been groundbreakers in the field of law, as well as connect with one another as current and former NYU Law students. Casey and I strive to foster a strong support network for women at NYU and in the legal field at large throughout the year. Law Women offers a peer mentorship program for 1Ls and LLMs, and we have held panels to help with the transition to law school, focused on demystifying 1L, outlining for exams, and the summer internship search. We also provide opportunities for students to be both mentees in our firm mentorship program and to serve as mentors in our high school mentorship program. In addition to support, Law Women has long been a place of advocacy, and this year has been no different. We raised money for abortion funds throughout the country, partnered with the League of Women Voters to send postcards encouraging New Yorkers to vote, and partnered with Clinic Escorts NYC to help patients access reproductive care safely, free from harassment or intimidation. We are also in the second year of disbursing the Law Women Endowment. We are continuing to provide students with grants to support unpaid term time internships, and we are also looking for new ways to use our endowment funds. This year, we have also been specifically focused on unique circumstances that are making navigating the legal field especially unpredictable. Currently, we are adapting to a rapidly changing legal recruitment environment, and we are looking for the best ways to support students in deciding on career paths. We facilitated panels on choosing between litigation and transactional work and on inclusion within the private sector. We are now looking forward to kicking off our spring semester with our annual firm networking event and an event co-sponsored by the ABA's M&A group. We are also actively committed to intersectionality and aim to support other affinity groups at NYU as they navigate a turbulent funding environment given recent political attacks on diversity, equity, and inclusion. We have partnered with the Women of Color Collective, the Latin American Law Students Association, and the South Asian Law Students Association, to name a few groups, to provide social programming and professional opportunities to students with intersectional identities. We greatly value the opportunity to foster connections between past and present Law Women members, and this event is an important part of that endeavor. Tonight, we look forward to hearing and learning from this year's alumni honoree, Terry Fromson. Now, please join me in welcoming Dean Troy McKenzie.
Thank you, Kaylee and Casey, for that introduction. Let me just say at the beginning, welcome on behalf of the law school to this year's Law Women Alumni Reception. This is an annual event at the law school that highlights law women as an extraordinary group at the law school and also highlights the long tradition at NYU of extraordinary women graduates. Law Women, of course, serves as a peer group for current students, but it is also a vast network of alumni of women in the profession over many, many years. If you have heard me speak about this before, you will hear me speak about this again, but I'm always proud to remind everyone that this law school began admitting female candidates well over 100 years ago, 1890 exactly, and that was decades before many of our peers, exactly, yes. Now, I don't want to call out our peers because any development is a good development, but it was 18 years before Yale, 37 years before Columbia, and 60 years before Harvard Law School admitted women. So that is a history that we are extraordinarily proud of, and it means that we have an extraordinary group of female alumni throughout the years. From Rosalie Whitney, class of 1895, who was the first female lawyer to try a case in State Supreme in New York, and also the first female attorney-in-chief of the Legal Aid Society. Our alum, the late Chief Judge Judith S. Kaye, class of 1962, who was the first female member of the New York Court of Appeals and the first woman to be Chief Judge of the state of New York. to our alum, Sherilyn Eiffel, of the class of '87, who was president and director counsel of the NAACP Legal Defense and Education Fund, later a senior fellow at the Ford Foundation, and now on the faculty of Howard Law School, where she runs the 14th Amendment Center. To Rio Tobacco Mar, class of 2008, director of the ACLU's Women's Rights Project, overseeing that organization's extensive work in the field. So this is a law school that has produced countless women who have become leaders in our profession, in the judiciary, in government, in business, and in public service as well. To that extraordinary list, we of course want to put a highlight on and celebrate Terry Fromsen. We are delighted to honor her, another remarkable name in that long NYU legacy. She is of counsel at the Women's Law Project, and she is, of course, the recipient of this year's Law Women Alumna of the Year Award. And she will be formally introduced in a few moments, but let me just say that we are delighted to have you here. Welcome back to NYU Law, and I just want to say how proud we are of all of the work you have done throughout an outstanding career, and continue to do throughout an outstanding career. We were talking about what the dorms were like when she was a student. And let's just say that, well, NYU students have never been happy with every part of their dorm experience. I lived in this dorm when I was a 1L, and we were sharing some memories of the character building that went into living in the dorms back then. But again, we're delighted that you took the time to be here, and congratulations. Thank you.
Thank you, Dean McKenzie, and thank you to everyone for coming to tonight's event. To reintroduce myself, I'm Casey Martin, one of the co-presidents of Law Women this year. We are so excited to celebrate with you and to hear from our honoree about her inspiring journey through the legal field. It is an honor to introduce this year's Law Women Alumna of the Year Award to Terry Fromsen. Terry has devoted her entire career to public interest law. She has spent almost 3 decades spearheading efforts to protect and advance the rights of women, girls, and LGBTQ people at the Women's Law Project in Philadelphia, Pennsylvania. Terry earned a BA in Russian Language and Literature from Swarthmore College in 1975 and a JD from NYU School of Law in 1978. After receiving her law degree, Terry dedicated almost 13 years as a staff attorney and then managing attorney to Philadelphia's Community Legal Services, where she specialized in employment law and provided direct legal services to individuals unable to afford a lawyer. In 1994, Terry joined the Philadelphia office of the WLP. As a staff attorney and then managing attorney, Terry brought impact litigation, engaged in direct representation, and successfully pursued institutional and policy changes. She has worked across a broad range of interrelated issues, including domestic and sexual violence, pregnancy and lactation discrimination, access to contraceptives, equal pay, family leave, Title IX, athletic equity, and sexual harassment. Terry is most proud of 3 notable accomplishments in her work at WLP. She spearheaded a national effort to stop insurance companies from discriminating against victims of domestic violence. She co-led a national effort to improve rape laws and police accountability in responding to sexual assault, including launching an advocate-led annual review of police sex crime files. As an extension of this ongoing review, she co-led a campaign to expand the archaic rape definition in the FBI Uniform Crime Report, which has not been changed since 1929. And she had engaged in significant advocacy litigation on behalf of students at all levels of education to achieve equity in athletics. Terry has received numerous honors, including the Philadelphia Bar Association's Andrew Hamilton Award in 2007, since renamed the Bending the Arc Award, recognizing achievement, resilience, and courage, for her exemplary service in the public interest. She's also won the American Bar Association's 2020 Vision Award for Trailblazing Advocacy Against Domestic and Sexual Violence in 2015, and a Lifetime Achievement Award at the Pennsylvania Legal Awards in 2023. Terry is currently of counsel to the Women's Law Project. And with that, Terry, we would love to present you your award.
Good evening. I hope everyone's doing well today. Can you hear me? Am I at the right place with this mic? Okay. Well, thank you to Dean McKenzie, Kaylee, and Casey for this wonderful welcome here and for your kind introductions. I am honored and a bit overwhelmed to receive the Alumna of the Year award from Law Women NYU Law. I didn't expect this, and I really appreciate it, and it means a lot to me. I also am very happy to have gotten to learn what you're doing with Law Women here. I mean, it's incredible what you've got on your agenda, and I really support what you're doing here. So yes, I have dedicated my entire career to public interest law. And in my senior year of college, I decided that I wanted to pursue a meaningful career in which I could help people. And I decided that law school should be the way to go to get to that goal. And NYU Law was instrumental in helping me pursue that goal. It offered many, many opportunities for public interest opportunities. And none of the other schools were doing what they were doing. So there were lots of legal clinics, the Journal on Social Change. So I came here and I took two legal clinics, and I wrote an article for the Review of Law and Social Change. The subject of the article was legal remedies for abused women. Domestic violence was just emerging as a public social issue. My research included interviews of legal services lawyers and prosecutors, all women, who were working to change the hands-off perspective of the justice system to domestic violence, and to create legal remedies and support systems. And because of NYU Law and the Review of Law Social Change, I was able to meet these very inspiring women. I appreciate the opportunity to share more about the work of the Women's Law Project. The three items that were identified as what I'm most proud of, you're going to hear a lot of detail about it. So one of my first challenges at the Women's Law Project was to address insurance discrimination against domestic violence survivors. In 1994, the Pennsylvania Coalition Against Domestic Violence referred a woman to us who had been denied health, life, and mortgage disability insurance by two insurers because she was a survivor of abuse. She told her doctor about the abuse, and she asked him to document in her medical records. And at the time, that's what healthcare professionals were encouraged to do, so that if someone needed crucial legal evidence of abuse, they could get it when it was timely reported to the doctor. But after the insurers saw her medical records, they denied her insurance. So they basically penalized her because she wanted to be safe. We learned that these practices were pervasive, applied to all types of insurance, health, life, homeowners, auto, disability, and all of them important to maintaining a health, home, and a livelihood for families. Our clients' experience led to the national public disclosure of these practices. The domestic violence community and legislators condemned the practices. Insurers defended themselves by comparing domestic violence to a lifestyle or career choice, like riding a motorcycle or skydiving. We, of course, all know that domestic violence is not a choice. They also blamed survivors for not leaving. It was their fault. But they were ignorant of the fact that leaving is the most dangerous time for a battered woman. So calls started coming in from all over the country. We filed a complaint with the Pennsylvania Insurance Department, but we realized that we really needed a national response to this whole thing. I then learned about the National Association of Insurance Commissioners. They write model laws. So I applied to be a consumer representative to the NAIC. And for 4 years, I worked with insurance commissioners, educating them about abuse and contributing to the drafting of 4 model laws to protect survivors. I also engaged with many state and federal legislators, helping them draft laws to ban insurance discrimination based on domestic violence. The result of that work was new legislation adopted in 45 states and the District of Columbia, along with a provision in the Affordable Care Act protecting access to insurance for battered women. Survivors continued to call us for help when they confronted a denial. And due to our work, then we had tools to use to help them, and we could argue on their behalf that they should not be denied insurance. Another area is our work on police response to sex crimes. In 1999, it's like ancient history, the Philadelphia Inquirer published an investigative series describing how the Philadelphia Police Department's Special Victims Unit had for 2 decades placed 1/3 of their sex crime cases into a non-crime code and did not investigate them. No crime code, no investigation. Those cases included 4 rapes that were coded non-crime because the detectives did not believe these women were raped. It was a couple years later that we learned that all 4 of those rapes were committed by the same perpetrator, but not identified as a serial rapist until after he murdered a woman in Philadelphia and went to Colorado to rape more women. This is the consequence of what happens when you don't believe women. The article revealed stereotypes, victim blaming, disbelief. We asked City Council for hearings, and the members scheduled a series of hearings to cover this subject. We met with the police commissioner. In addition to reforms to ensure accountability, we asked him to review the non-crime coded cases for the past 5 years. That was the statute of limitations in Pennsylvania at that time. And if rapes were found, to reinvestigate them. He agreed, but he testified that he did not expect to find any rapes. After he completed the review, however, he testified again and said he had been wrong and that almost 2,000 of the cases should have been investigated as sex crimes and that victims have treated, and I am quoting, in a god-awful manner. He acknowledged that the city had lost confidence in the public and asked us to form a group of advocates to conduct a review of the sex crime files. It was an unusual request to bring civilians into the Special Victims Unit. Initially, our relationship was somewhat awkward with the personnel, but we were able to keep the case reviews going year after year since 2000, and each year after that, we have conducted these reviews. So it eventually became collaborative because they realized we had something to offer to them. So we now still conduct these reviews every year with a crew of volunteer advocates. We review about 400 files from the previous year. We look for thorough, non-biased, trauma-informed investigations that are coded correctly. And if they don't meet those standards, we provide confidential feedback on each of the cases to SVU leadership, and they follow up as appropriately. It is now known nationally and some international places as the Philadelphia model. And we are actually conducting this case review this week. So I was at the SVU Monday and Tuesday, and we'll be there tomorrow. So we're very proud of that. There's a whole lot more in that room, but I don't have the time to fill in all of it. But one of the pieces I want to talk about is that when we were talking to the investigators while we were there at the Special Victims Unit, we had discussions that led us to a decade-long successful effort to change the FBI Uniform Crime Report rape definition. The UCR collects crime data for the public, and if the definition of the crime is wrong, the data is wrong. So we came to realize that the investigators understood real rape to be only forcible penetration of female by male. That was the definition in the UCR, which dated back to 1929 and had not been amended since then. At that time, it has been amended now, but and in 2000, the understanding of rape was still significantly expanded in state laws, including Pennsylvania. So the antiquated 1929 definition was misleading law enforcement about what was serious sex crimes and the public as to the extent of the crime. So in September of 2001, we sent a letter to the FBI co-signed by 93 state and national organizations requesting the change in the definition. We did not get a response. However, journalists started responding to the Philadelphia news stories because this was just going on and on day after day in Philadelphia. And they started investigating in their jurisdictions to find out what was happening there. They found similar practices. They contacted us, and we realized this was not Philadelphia alone. This was a national crisis about police failure to respond to sex crimes appropriately. Armed with that knowledge, we asked our then Pennsylvania Senator Specter to hold hearings, which he did. An extensive testimony by survivors, experts, the Office of Violence Against Women, law professor, our Philadelphia Police Commissioner, and the Women's Law Project testified. That led to the Police Executive Research Forum. You probably don't know who they are, but they are a national think tank on police practice, and they held a forum for law enforcement to talk about the response to sexual assault. The expansion of the definition of rape was a key item of that meeting and revived our request to change the FBI definition of rape. After we two of us from the Women's Law Project, attended many, many meetings in the FBI crime policy process. The FBI and then the Attorney General approved the new definition, which broadened the definition to a great deal. It was a definition of penetration that included by object as well as oral penetration, and it replaced force with without the consent of the victim. The last area I want to share with you is the work that has been done on equal athletic participation and treatment in athletics for women and girls. Soon after I started, student athletes, parents, and coaches started contacting us with complaints about the disparities in their treatment at their colleges and high schools and junior highs. Since then, we have represented athletes, their parents, from elementary school to junior and high school and college, as well as a high school referee. We succeeded in addressing the disparities in participation and treatment by applying Title IX, our Pennsylvania Equal Rights Amendment, and the Equal Protection Clause of the U.S. Constitution. We have filed lawsuits, administrative complaints. We've engaged in mediating and negotiating settlements. We have supported parents and students who are doing their own advocacy. Our work includes touring campus athletic facilities, comparing the males and the females' benefits. So we get an audit of that. This is like the locker rooms, the everything. And we also painstakingly count athletes on teams to ensure that the school's participation count has not been manipulated by the school to make the school look compliant when it is not. And I have experienced that happening in my cases. So I picked out two interesting and successful examples of cases that we have done. One client was a female high school basketball official. She wanted to officiate both the boys' games and the girls' games, but she was not allowed to officiate the boys' games. But the male officials were allowed to officiate both the girls and the boys. We went to court. A jury dismissed the assigner's justification that all male officials are faster and superior to all female officials. And female officials now are able to officiate boys' games. We also represented this young girl who had wrestled in her elementary school since she was in 3rd grade. But when she got to junior high, the school barred her from the team. We took it to federal court, which rejected the school's arguments that girls are less capable and face greater risk of physical harm, sexual contact, and harassment. So she won her place on that team. In closing, I want to thank the Law Women again for this incredible honor. It brings me kind of full circle to where my path in public interest law started. I also thank NYU for giving me the opportunities to pursue my goals. And I thank so many people who have collaborated with me over the years. I mean, none of this work was just me. This was all of us. It was my mentors. It was colleagues from legal services, colleagues from the Women's Law Project, pro bono co-consul, a multitude of national, state, and local organizations, advocacy organizations, and legal organizations. And finally, of course, I am grateful for my family who has supported me through all of this. So I share this honor with all of them. Thank you very much.
We want to thank you all again for joining us tonight. Many thanks to the Office of Development and Alumni Relations and Alyssa Ward for organizing this wonderful event. Thank you also to Dean McKenzie for being here tonight. And lastly, thank you to Terry for taking the time out of your very busy schedule to be here and for sharing your remarkable story, experiences, and insights with us.
We are so grateful that Law Women has created the space for us to all come together and hear from such inspiring people about the crucial work that they are doing. Law Women is committed to equipping the next generation of women with the resources they need to thrive in the legal profession. We can't wait to see what future Law Women members, past and present, will do in the coming years. Thank you all and enjoy the rest of the evening.